This could be a nifty little bit of hustle bustle.
Wait, do you have his address?
It is full of people caught up in the hustle and bustle of the rat race.
Just trying to keep up with the hustle and bustle.
When I'm in between jobs, I like to get away from the hustle and bustle of Tinseltown, which is why I've kept a place in Woodbury.
Bouncing here and there and everywhere.
And Scotland has always been chalk and cheese, you know, to England.
Loud voice and your old busybody butting in here, there, and everywhere.
Choice, right? You've got a list of criteria. The farms need to be matched in size and type and so on, or else you're comparing chalk and cheese. Having got on that, or else you're comparing chalk and cheese.
Is frankly just chalk and cheese. The transformation in the US-China dialogue on climate between Copenhagen and Paris is frankly just chalk and cheese. It's like Mars and Venus in terms of two different worlds.
I don't know about speed yet, but the two bikes feel like chalk and cheese.
Chalk and cheese, really. My mum and dad, he come from a family of six, one sister of 5 brothers. Very tough upbringing. You know, a very strict father. In and out of work. It become very, very difficult for him, and then the pressure.
I mean, they're both decent portraits, but when you come back to Lady Agnew, she's just, it's like chalk and cheese. Because Lady Agnew is so all there, so actual, so immediate, she's a living, breathing person, and she's also a complicated modern person. She's not a sort of, in the same way.
Honestly, Ewan, they could not be more different. It's literally chalk and cheese. It's a diesel engine, obviously. First of all, we simply don't have an ignition event. Next question comes from Ewan, who's asked, is tuning a petrol engine and a diesel engine roughly the same, or are they fairly worlds apart? Honestly, Ewan, they could not be more different. It's literally chalk and cheese. With a diesel engine, obviously, first of all, we simply don't have an ignition event. There's no spark plug, I should say. There is actually an ignition event, but we're not initiating that with a spark. It's a compression ignition engine. What we press.
So we've got one from Suji. Adam, what role does authenticity play in ethnic cuisine?
It only plays a role if you consider a cuisine to be ethnic. You know, I love a video that BuzzFeed did years ago, actually, about people, Asian Americans, talking about Panda Express. And generationally, it was chalk and cheese. You know, the older generation would eat Panda Express and go, not bad, that's pretty good. The younger generation was like, this is not real Chinese food. Like, there's so much identity caught up in the idea of authenticity. But if you're actually in China, or you're in Japan, or you're in a country where, you know, I'm a first generation migrant to Australia, I don't much mind the authenticity. You know,
that's how me and Joe work really well, because we're quite chalk and cheese like that, like very, but Joe's like, there we go, it's all written down, and I'm a bit like, oh yeah, I'll remember that.
Okay then.
Go on.
Well, actually, it's chalk and cheese with, you know, the original pioneering flying. What you're seeing.
She took me on a tour of her airplane and gave me a little insight on why vintage planes like her Spirit of Artemis are so special.
And there must be just something about these planes versus, I mean, we're at Farnborough, so there's new planes everywhere, and they're showing off the newest technology, but it just feels different, you know, I imagine, to fly something like this.
Well, actually, it's chalk and cheese with, you know, the original pioneering flying.
If I look at the contribution that private sector gives to male sports, and I think about what private sector contribution makes to the abuse of women and children, it's chalk and cheese.
Animals. Yeah, it does. And it's also worth saying, isn't it, that those two bikes felt like completely different animals, like chalk and cheese. And so
women and children, it's chalk and cheese. We talk about private sector taking away the glass ceiling within the workplace. That goes a long way towards creating an environment where women can thrive in the private sector and in the economy. The investment and the trade between the companies and suppliers that are women-owned, ensuring that within each company you've got the right policy to fight sexual harassment and to make sure that there's equal pay for equal work are some of the principles that are enshrined. But of course, contributing to women's causes handsomely. If I look at the contribution that private sector gives to male sports, and I think about what private sector contribution makes to the abuse of women and children, it's chalk and cheese. I love sports, especially what happened in Harare. No offense meant. Of course, what happened in the cricket field stays there. And as a South African, I don't want to belabor the point. But I know that these sports have thrived because of the investment that private sector has made on them. And it tends to be the sports that are also male-dominated.
What a play show is a part of it, another kettle of fish.
Immortality and infamy are two completely different kettle of fish.
Totally different kettle of fish.
Lush. According to O'Keefe, there is a discernible difference in taste and mouthfeel between Irish and American butter. And he didn't mince words in his breakdown of the difference, saying, I have to be careful for an American audience, but we'd say it's like the difference between chalk and cheese. The higher fat content, grass-fed milk, golden color, and luscious texture set Kerrygold and other Irish butters miles apart from regular American brands like by some advantage over other European butters too.
They dote on him almost obsessively. In their eyes, he can do no wrong. Only child syndrome, I suppose. Mine weren't like that, even though I was an only child as well. They knew I could be a right little madam sometimes and wouldn't let me get away with anything. I loved them to bits despite the occasional slap across the legs. I miss them so much. Gavin and me, chalk and cheese. It's like the kids, so alike to look at but so different. Connie, the older one, is easygoing. She shares her toys, sweets, anything with the other kids. She's always nursing them if they bump themselves or fall over. A proper little mom. Peter's a different kettle of fish. He's okay.
Companies that we should be focusing on for an internship.
I can start with. You know, the question of internships is very dependent on the individual company in Australia in news media. There is an internship can either be paid or unpaid, and they're very they're like chalk and cheese. Those are very different. In many of the
they are a little bit like chalk and cheese in that Luke's our quite sensitive boy. He loves water. He'll do anything in water, swimming or jumping off the wharf, anything like that. And Felix is he's that kind of outgoing, energetic drama dancer.
Two of you should get on like chalk and cheese.
What about Morelli?
He's out and about.
Because she's out and about. And sometimes when we're out and about.
Look who's out and about.
Out and about.
Oh, she's out and about somewhere.
Actually, it all works out rather well, because I shall be out and about promoting my book.
It was a pleasant surprise to see you out and about.
Everyone was out and about this fine morning.
Sixes and sevens with you.
I know from my own experience how a house is at sixes and sevens once the staff start marrying each other.
Rita, look at me. All at sixes and sevens.
So, you know, he's here, there, and everywhere, but he will be here.
Diogenes Club is here, there, and everywhere.
We've got concerts all over the place. Here, there, and everywhere.
It's just so freaking hard to track her down. She's here, there, and everywhere.
Can't. We're in bumper-to-bumper traffic.
It's bumper-to-bumper.
But traffic on I-93 was bumper-to-bumper.
And
bumper-to-bumper, the avenue's...
Glad to see you're out and about.